Hello and welcome to another episode of Coffee Talk. That's right, this is the podcast where we bleed red, white, and blue, and of course, we don't f***ing run. I'm one of your hosts, Matt, and I'm joined by a couple of tortured souls, Taryn and Brandon. How are you guys? What's up?
I'm really good, yeah.
Great.
You know, if your blood is blue and white, you may want to get that checked out.
That is true.
Yeah, you might be an alien. You could be an alien. And
I thought it was green blood.
that could be green blood too. Maybe, well, you know, Taryn, there's a bunch of different types of aliens.
That's
You
true,
didn't know
too.
this. There's
That is
several.
very true, yeah.
We don't know what all of their blood colors are.
True.
We only know the little guys.
Yeah.
We only know the little guys. What did you guys do this week? You have a good time?
I went to my parents' house. It was quite busy, actually.
Nice.
But yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I worked.
cool.
It was awful.
Oh, man. I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel you hardcore, Brandon. I also worked. I think I worked every day. Every day I worked except yesterday.
Yep.
It was over 10 hours.
Yeah, yesterday we did a inside stream, a little race.
Oh, yeah, we streamed inside. We beat inside. You know what, Taryn? That's a great point. We should probably plug our Twitch channels at the start of this.
Yeah.
So I'm Jackal194. I stream whenever I can. Taryn's kind of the big streamer. Taryn, you wanna tell the
Yep.
people about your
Yeah, it's a SLIVERWOLF 5. I usually stream on the weekdays about 8 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Yep. Yeah, he's got a full on regular schedule and stuff.
Mhm.
And Brandon, you've just started streaming.
That's
You're
right.
2 streams deep
That's
now.
right. I'm on Twitch now at
Yep.
that's capital B JONSEY. Don't ask me why I spell it that way. There is no good. There's no good reason. That is just how I've done it.
I
That's
think
fine.
that's like you've got a pretty sick Twitch name, Brandon.
You do.
I'm gonna be honest. It's so short, it's so simple.
Yep.
You did a good job.
I
we've
don't
been-
I don't really have a schedule. I'm
Yeah.
been quite infrequent with my 2 streams.
But
all
just
good.
whenever you feel good.
Whenever I feel good, whenever I have something I want to play.
Yep.
Yeah, and he does good. We've been plugging them. They're you know, if you watch the YouTube version,
Yep.
they're plastered on the screen, but we've never mentioned them. So, yeah,
That's
that's
where you
great.
can find us, yeah.
Yeah. Also, Taryn, when I said the F word, if you edit this, just bleep it. I'll edit. If I edit, I'll bleep it too. I think it'll be really funny to have a bleep right at the beginning. So,
Okay.
yeah,
We should just bleep our Twitch names.
yeah. We censor all the Twitch names. We cut that part out. We don't want people to know who we are. All right. Well, guys, we got a big episode today full of beans and worms and things like that. And it's also about one of the greatest moments of strife our great nation has ever handled. Man against man, neighbor against neighbor, brother against brother. Does it sound
Ooh.
familiar? Of course it does.
Sounds like the
It's
Civil
the-
War.
Goddamn Civil War. That's right.
One,
It's,
two,
it's the
ready,
Civil War.
go. What's the news? Hey, is there something new? What's the news? Say what you want to say.
All right. What does anybody know about the Civil War? Can we get just the basics from one of you? Do you
Well, the South
What-
fucking
what-
lost. Get fucked.
fucking-
Get
we
fucked.
got nay-nayed, bro?
A lot of families were torn apart. I know the lines was drawn like somewhere in Missouri, I believe.
The Mason-Dixon line. I
Yeah.
didn't write much about the Mason-Dixon line. I believe it was south of Missouri.
South
the
of Missouri.
Mason-Dixon. Yeah. The Missouri was a slave state, but it was part of the Union. And it yeah. I'll have an anecdote about that later. Personal anecdote, kind of. Not personal, but, you know. So let's go ahead and kick things off in saying that we aren't covering the whole conflict, just how it started and kind of how it ended. But more importantly, one of the worst places I think that has ever existed in America, it's Andersonville Prison. And I'd like to tell you why I picked it in our worst Christmases draft.
Okay.
I'll at least try to tell you why.
I thought you were going to say something like the Underground Railroad.
The Underground Railroad was not the worst thing that ever existed in America, Taryn.
That was a good thing.
I know.
It was a good thing.
Also, it
I know,
wasn't
just a little bit of history with the Civil War, though.
Also, it wasn't
Yeah,
really a place.
That's true, too.
No,
It's
wasn't
more
a
of an
place.
operation kind of thing.
Yep, Harriet Tubman and all that. Okay.
Yep.
You know, Harriet Tubman's got just a funny name. You can
That is
say
true.
Harriet Tubman. You can put Harriet Tubman as a punchline. And man, that's great. I love her. She's awesome. All right, let me take y'all back,
Okay.
guys. Close your eyes. I want you to imagine this. All right. Let me take you back to a time when the summers were hot and the winters were cold.
Sounds like yesterday.
Horses. Yeah, it's like yesterday, except, well, horses were the main form of personal transportation.
Mhm.
And the Transcontinental Railroad was but a burgeoning idea. White people were allowed to own black people, not yesterday, maybe tomorrow, who knows. All the while, things like the Industrial Revolution were making said enslavement obsolete, along with its innate abhorrent nature.
Yep.
So,
I do want to pause there, and I feel like with a lot of technology and like the industries that are booming, it usually does help society benefit just in weird ways, because like the economic boom that we had because of, you know, factories, it's less slave dependent. So,
and the cotton gin. The cotton gin was a big thing. That basically came in, and it went from slaves are free labor and we need them to slaves are free labor and we don't need them and we get to torture them and do horrible things to them.
yeah,
And yeah.
because we have machinery that can do the jobs too.
Yeah. We can do more work without them, and yet we still need them because we like to have power over people. So yeah, okay. So I want you to imagine the world around you right now. Feel the clothes you wear, the seat you're sitting on, hear the wind outside. Now imagine all of that stuff, but it's about 200 years ago.
Okay.
Wow. It turns out
I don't think
Things
I'd
back
have a
then-
house.
you would have it. But imagine you have a house. It's the
Yeah.
same fucking shit now as it was 200. People, here's the thing. People like to think about this time period or back then as if it were just like totally different. All right?
Mhm.
It's not. You have the same senses, the same feelings, the same wants, the same desires. All right? The Civil War was
You're
not
telling
just...
me I have a want to check my Facebook feed?
You would if you had Facebook. You don't. Instead, you would have a want to read the damn newspaper.
That's true too.
They did not have goth GFs back then. I don't believe.
Brent, I think they only had goth GFs back then. That was Victorian England, right?
Yeah,
That was all the gothic stuff. Is that what
That's
I'm
true.
thinking of?
yeah. I think it's a little more than 200 years ago, though.
I don't know. That lasted until like 1880, I think.
That's
But
true.
so, what I'm trying to say is this stuff, for one, wasn't that long ago. I mean, 200 years ago, not a very long time.
Yeah,
I mean, we're only 250 years old. a
Yeah,
country.
we're only the country's only 250. All right.
and people
I
live
have
to be about 100. So I mean, it's not
a
that
great,
long.
yeah, exactly. My great great grandmother was born before this Civil War and lived until a year after my dad was born. So that's not that long ago. She was born in, I think, 1850 something. I don't know. Whatever. What I'm trying to say is this isn't like the black and white photos that you see. This is real life, okay? You know, the wind, the
Yep.
smells. It's all happening now, especially this time because there's the Industrial Revolution going on. So, let's start in October in the year of 1859, before the official start of the war at Harper's Ferry, Virginia.
Okay.
John Brown, an abolitionist, attempted to start a revolution and end slavery in the United States. However, he came ill-equipped with only a raiding party of 22, and while he captured the U.S. Armory there, The general confusion and his inability to communicate his actions, I would say efficiently, to the people who needed to hear it, led to his and most of his party's demise. Only 5 escaped alive in the end. So he came in, and before he started the raid, he kind of went around town. He had a bunch of weapons. He went around town. He went to plantations and slave holds like that, and he would talk to people, and he'd be like, all right, we're coming in. We're starting this. We're kicking it off. And people, I would say generally were receptive. However, him going around like that did kind of alert people. So it was both good and bad. Bad in the sense that nobody came to help him. But bad in the sense that he wasn't given enough time to amass an army. And good in the sense that he found out that people were kind of actually into this idea, especially the slaves. There's a story of them going to a slave encampment and telling them that they're about to free all of them and, start kind of a revolution. And apparently the slaves really loved it. They were super, super excited. They sang and danced. Maybe they didn't do all of that.
I can imagine.
Yeah, you would imagine. However, what I'm bringing this up only to say, or only to combat the notion that was so prevalently spread back in the day that the slaves actually liked being slaves, when in truth they did not.
Yeah.
So
You're telling me they didn't like their horrible treatment?
yeah, Brandon, you'd be surprised to know that they didn't like being whipped nearly to death, or sometimes to death.
Yeah.
Damn, this has shifted my entire paradigm.
I'm glad I can save you, Brandon. So, in short, this Harper's Ferry raid, John Brown, he came in, guns a-blazing, hoping to be backed up by hundreds, if not thousands of people. But instead, he just danced with the girl he came with, and that was his small party of well-meaning individuals. And at the end of it all, they were defeated by the United States Marines by the third day. In that company of Marines, I think it was a small company. There, included. Sorry, I'm getting my words jumbled up. Notably, one of the Marines included in this fight against the raiding party of John Brown was General Robert E. Lee, or famous future Confederate General Robert E. Lee. He was there. So I think a lot of people refer to him as the only guy who saw the whole thing from the beginning to the end, from Harper's Ferry to his surrender. And yeah, that's kind of incredible to me that he was there at such a momentous occasion. Robert E. Lee is an individual, I think, who doesn't get the credit that he deserves because he wasn't necessarily a red-blooded Southerner. He stood with his state, of course, but he also wasn't opposed to remaining with the Union. And
so he's more of a states' rights kind of guy then.
Yeah, but
states' rights to what, my friend?
To own slaves. But I think if it were abolished, I don't think he would have been sad about that, if that makes sense. I think he would have been okay with it.
But his entire army that he kind of coalesced would be.
Yeah, the propaganda and all of that stuff that whipped everybody into a fervor about slavery.
Yep.
That's the problem. Not to say Robert E. Lee was a great guy or anything. I think he's still a total piece of shit who fought for the right to own slaves, which is absolutely horrible. So, John Brown was taken down by a lieutenant named Green, whose last name was Green, who slashed the back of his neck with a saber and, basically put a nice stop to the conflict. Brown was captured And many spoke to him while he was locked away. They sort of pushed him through an expeditious trial to be hanged. But many came and interviewed him. One such person came and interviewed him, and it was Virginia's governor, Henry A. Wise. And here's just a little taste of what was said in the interview. So this is Wise speaking to Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, the sliver of... let me read this again. Mr. Brown, the silver of your hair is reddened by the blood of crime, and you should eschew these hard words and think upon eternity. You are suffering from wounds, perhaps fatal, and should you escape death from these causes, you must submit to a trial which may involve death. Your confessions justify the presumption that you will be found guilty, and even now you are committing a felony under the laws of Virginia by uttering sentiments like these. It is better you should turn your attention to your eternal future than be dealing in denunciations which can only injure you. And this is Brown speaking back to the governor. I have, from all appearances, not more than 15 or 20 years the start of you in the journey to that eternity of which you kindly warn me. And whether my time here shall be 15 months or 15 days or 15 hours, I am equally prepared to go. There is an eternity behind and an eternity before. And this little speck in the center, however long, is but comparatively a minute. The difference between your tenure and mine is trifling, and I therefore tell you to be prepared. I am prepared. You all have a heavy responsibility, and it behooves you to prepare more than it does me.
Ooh.
Isn't that fucking badass?
Yeah, kinda.
Those are fighting words.
Yeah. He's like, listen, I'm standing on my own consciousness.
Yeah.
You're the ones who need to prepare for the, to meet the devil. Jesus Christ. So, also pretty philosophical. Not a lot of people could think like that back then, of like nothing before, nothing really after. This is just such a
moment in time. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is what I'm going to do with my life.
I feel like a lot of people don't think like that now.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of people, especially even more so with the way things have been going lately, people are kind of getting more into this religious, eternal life type of deal.
Well, not just like religious aspects of it, but like when people think, they usually focus in the short term, like what do I have to gain out of it, rather than the long term of like, well, how can we maybe help society for a better, and not maybe just now, but maybe like for 20 years or 30 years or 100 years. Like there's ways to change things, and you can do it within the system, but people don't think like that anymore.
Right. Well, and if they do, they often get shot down because people want immediate change and action.
True.
But the smart thing is this way of thinking. I believe,
Yep.
The
ship is so big, it's hard to make massive changes, though. You have to do incremental changes.
It takes, I think theoretically it would take hundreds of years to make, and there's all kinds of arguments against that. But I think in the end, the fast changes often lead to things like civil wars, or just rash decisions. So, Brown didn't only talk to this guy. He had a lot of words. But I think, just to close his story out, here are his final words. That he didn't get to speak to people because the soldiers who were holding him and the police who were holding him were genuinely afraid that he would incite a revolution. So he wrote this down and handed it to one of his guards, and they kept it. So here's final words. Had I so interfered in behalf of the rich, the powerful, the intelligent, the so-called great, or in behalf of any of their friends, either father, mother, brother, sister, wife, or children, or any of that class, and suffered and sacrificed what I have in this interference, it would have been all right, and every man in this court would have deemed it an act worthy of reward rather than punishment. So I think in this he was conveying the idea that because he acted alone and for a cause that he deemed so righteous, the powers that be would rather him dead, so his actions wouldn't give anyone an idea to do the same. But if he had like a
martyr.
He's a martyr. But if he had a sponsor, he might have been
Taco Bell.
spared his life. Yeah. Fucking Taco Bell sponsors John Brown. Hell yeah.
I wonder who's going to sponsor this podcast.
If we can get Taco Bell on this, I would love some gorditas. Send
Yeah.
a gordita my way.
We could probably send them to Andersonville too.
Dude, they need gorditas down there, bro. All right. I'm glad you brought up Andersonville because we're going to get into that now. Well, we're almost getting into that. So Brown was held and hanged that day. All the while, slavers of Virginia guarded him from the abolitionist force they were sure were going to come and free him. However, no such force came. In fact, no such force existed. I bring that up only to say that people were actually genuinely terrified. They thought this guy, his little movement was going to snowball. These slavers were like, oh God, yeah, we know we're fucked up. We know that's why we're paranoid.
Yeah.
So that's why they hung him. Even though he's the one who suffered the most death and torture in his raid, they still hung him. So, all right, moving on now. In the year of 1860, a little fellow, not very well known, named Abraham Lincoln, won his first presidential election. You guys know Abraham Lincoln? You ever heard of this guy?
I
I heard he was big in the theater.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he loved the theater, dude. He loved to watch the theater, only watch the theater, never look behind him.
I know a lot of people made fun of us for his big hat that he always wore.
He loved his hat. He used to. I heard he would keep squirrels in there and feed them nuts on his days off.
See, I always thought it was a magician hat where he's going to pull out a rabbit.
Well, he could have put a rabbit in there too. I don't know.
Maybe
I'm just
a bullet?
making shit up.
I don't believe he was the inventor of the Lincoln Logs, though, which is kind of
That
disappointing.
is correct, yeah.
Can we talk real talk for a minute? Lincoln Logs. What do we think? Top 10 childhood toys? Love those things.
Mm-hmm.
They still rule, dude.
Yeah.
I've still got my 10 from when I was a kid. Oh, they're still there.
Nice.
I still build with them. I pull them out every now and then. Make a little cabin. With a
Legos are up
small
there,
hat.
though. Legos are hard to beat.
Legos way above Lincoln Logs. Legos saw Lincoln Logs and they were like, hold my beer.
Yeah.
I can't build the Millennium Falcon out of Lincoln Logs, unfortunately.
I can't.
Hey, have you tried hard enough?
Yeah, you know what? I haven't tried hard enough. Maybe I'll do that on stream one day.
Okay.
Just trying to build them. Yeah, that's a great stream. That's a fantastic idea. People are going to love watching a man try to build and fail the Millennium Falcon out of Lincoln Logs. That's a good idea. So not long after his inauguration, on April of 1861, the southern slave states, 7 of them, seceded from the Union, kicking off the start of the Civil War.
That sounds like treason.
Taryn, it was treason. It is treason. Not was, it is. They're still rebels. They're still the bad guys. The Confederacy, not part of America. So battles were fought and won and lost. And through those battles, many were taken as prisoners of war. So do you guys have like any family history with the Civil War?
No, my family came over after.
Oh, wow.
Not that
That's
I
cool.
know of. Yeah.
There's only one bit of history. I mentioned my great-grandmother. She lived in Missouri at the time. During the Civil War, she lived, I believe it was in Warsaw, Missouri.
Okay.
And the story goes is they were, sleeping in their house one night when a knock came at the door. And these guys, they were known as the bushwhackers. In Missouri especially, they were kind of, what's the word? Guerrilla soldiers. They would come and go. They weren't part of the actual Confederate Army. They were kind of like hired mercenaries, basically.
Okay.
But they're called the bushwhackers. And they showed up while the family was all sleeping. And they pulled a man out of the house and killed him. They straight up. That's the extent of my family's interaction with the Civil War.
Jeez.
My great-grandmother was around when the Confederate soldiers pulled a man out of their house and shot him. And needless to say, they left that part of southern Missouri and moved to northern Missouri. And, well, that's not super far away from any battle in the Civil War. I think they did their best to get out of there, so...
Yep.
I think I would have gotten a lot further north at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, they lived way out in the boonies, where they eventually moved back to. So yeah, that's my little fun anecdote about
Did not know any
battle.
of that. That's crazy.
A little war in the Civil, the Civil War, or a little battle in the Civil War. Pretty inconsequential though. I'd like to get into something.
All right.
A bit more consequential. Little known horror of the war. Well, that's right. We're talking about Andersonville. All right. I've posted pictures in the Discord. We might post some of them on the YouTube video that you can watch and view. So a lot of what I've pulled off of Andersonville kind of comes from what I've learned about it over the years. But my big source for writing this script was an article from battlefield.org called Andersonville, the Deadly Confederate Prison Camp. So let's get into it, guys. Let's find out. First off, I would like to ask everybody, how do we feel about prison camps? We're pretty high on them, right? We love them?
I am a big fan of Alligator Alcatraz.
Alligator Alcatraz, classic. I was going to bring that up. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a prison camp. We have a prison camp. Prison camps are back in the South, baby. Brandon, how do you feel?
I can't say I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, I'm pretty. I'll be honest. I think it's a controversial take to say that I hate them. They kind of suck.
Does Guantanamo Bay still count?
I think that's just a prison.
That's just a prison.
That's true.
That's just where we put people that are brown and we don't like very well.
And we want to torture them.
Yeah.
I mean, the lines kind of get blurred when you're doing that, though.
I would say they're a little blurry. They're always blurred, thanks to previous bastards in history.
Yep.
So let's cut into it. Andersonville, or Camp Sumter, as it was known officially, held more prisoners at any given time than any of the other Confederate military prisons. It was built in early 1864 after Confederate officials decided to move the large number of federal prisoners in and around Richmond to a place of greater security and more abundant food. During the 14 months it existed, more than 45,000 Union soldiers were confined here. Of these, almost 13,000 died from disease, poor sanitation, malnutrition, overcrowding, or exposure to the elements.
That's horrendous.
Yeah, they're just there crammed in, 45,000 people at any given time.
I know it's not the same scale, but 45,000 people back then is a lot of people. Like, the population hadn't begin to boom like that much back in the day. Like, people think about like astronomical population now, where like I think America sits at around 320 million, something like that right now. But something back then, like 45,000 was a lot of people.
Yeah, that was like a big city.
Yeah.
To picture that, it would be like taking a baseball, like a full baseball stadium worth of people, and like putting them in the field area, and just you're like, just live there.
Just a mini little Holocaust, kind of.
For months, yeah. Just a tiny Holocaust. Nothing to write home about. Tiny Holocaust.
Yep. So
tents and open air excrement was life in Andersonville. Not to mention this horrifying thing called the deadline. It's like no man's land, where if you cross this line,
you get shot.
You get shot. Yeah. It was just a little fence post with some rails, and even if prisoners were to reach over it, bam, they get got. It was often used not so much as like I mean, it was a borderline, but soldiers didn't always just cross it on accident. I think a lot of them who crossed it did so on purpose, so that way they could stop starving to death or being sick or whatever,
Yeah.
As I showed you earlier, that picture of a man who's super emaciated. Imagine just one of those guys wandering up to it and just being tired. Just leaning, slouching over the railing. And
Yeah.
Kablam. You're dead.
Yeah. It sounds terrible.
Yeah, like I mentioned, people starved in Andersonville. Here's an excerpt from an article I found regarding the eating situations in late war prisons. Now, this isn't just specifically Andersonville. This is kind of everywhere. But just know that Andersonville, kind of the worst because of how many people there were. So this comes from September 13th, 1884. This is what a prisoner writes. Rats are found to be very good for food, and every night many are captured and slain. So pressing is the want of food that nearly all who can have gone into the rat business, either selling these horrid animals or killing them and eating them. So they're eating the rats.
Yeah.
They're eating the rats out there. And from
That's
what
only
I...
going to cause more disease.
Exactly. Yeah. People eating the rats, catching diseases, getting sick.
Yeah.
Now, from what I could read about Andersonville, they might not have even had like rats. What came out of Andersonville was like rotten meat, maggoty bread, wormy peas, things like that, and oftentimes prisoners just weren't fed at all.
Oh, so just a Michelin 5-star restaurant.
Yeah. We had old Emerald
Buffet.
Lagasse out there. just a buffet. Yeah, people didn't eat very well.
The
So
smorgasbord of all kinds of food.
Yes,
You just gotta pick the mold off. That's all you gotta do.
Exactly.
eat around the mold. It's good for
what?
you.
Ironically,
Penicillin.
that's what my dad does, and I had to last year tell him, no, it's bad. Stop doing that.
Yeah, I think you can die if you eat bread mold.
Yeah.
That there's some sicknesses that come with it. It's not always just penicillin.
A lot of people don't know that the mold has spores that go deeper into the bread you cannot see.
Yep. Yeah. If it's there on the surface, it means it's all over the bread.
Yep.
So a lot of the worst prison, especially Andersonville, was in the South, prisons in the South. But the North had bad too. This is an example of a good prison. One imprisoned Confederate soldier in Point Lookout, Maryland, wrote this about his prison experience. The food, while good, was very scant. Breakfast consisted of coffee and a loaf of bread. The latter, under any ordinary circumstances, with vegetables and other food, would probably suffice for 2 meals. The loaf was given us at breakfast, and if we ate it all, then we went without bread for dinner. If there was any left over, we took it to our tents and saved it for the next meal. So, here we go. The dinners consisted of a tin cup of soup, generally bean or other vegetable, a small piece of meat, on which a little vinegar was poured to prevent scurvy. My recollection is we had no other meal. We were always hungry, and the chief topic of conversation was the sumptuous meals we had sat down to in other days. So that's kind of nice. Not all northern prisons were like this, though.
True.
They weren't quite as bad as Andersonville, and a lot of times people in the north didn't die from starvation. They more died from torture or sickness, like disease. So it's a little more hospitable than Andersonville. And I think even Confederate prisons, some of them had better places.
I know it's kind of a hot topic, but as of right now, where we stand on torture, I think we do it, obviously. But I don't think it's effective. And do you think it's effective back then?
It definitely was not. I don't think anybody learned anything they needed to learn from torture back then, especially because of how slow information traveled.
Yeah.
You could torture a man and he could give he could give you every plan that he knew, but the plans could change. You know what I mean? Like it's
within like a month, like the horse would be delivering a new like message that you were like captured or whatever. Like it's doesn't matter.
Yeah, the torture was more, as it is, I think, in almost every case, it was more of a sadistic thing. People just kind of like torturing people. And a lot of times if you torture a person, they're prone to just give you any answer, whatever you want to hear. Just anything to stop the torture. So I don't think torture is really ever super effective. I'm sure it's worked every now and then, but man.
It's just, they're just doing it to be dicks.
Yeah, they're just assholes. So, yeah. Food was scarce in the South, guys. And the good stuff was reserved for the soldiers and citizens. So rotten meat, wormy peas, and sour bread was the norm, if the prisoners ate at all, like I was saying. Now, the only water in Andersonville was a creek running through the middle of the prison, and as you can imagine, it was not clean. Shit water, piss water, delicious, warm, and crisp. Just nothing like waking up with Andersonville creek shit in your cup. That's what I always say.
That is why they need those Brita filters.
Dude, can you imagine if they just had life straws back then?
Yeah.
Hand a life straw to every prisoner. Everybody's fine. Everybody's having a great time drinking the piss and shit water. Now, I know you guys, I know what you're thinking. You're all wondering how many people were crammed into that little prison. I know that's a horrible segue.
Yeah.
But according to the article, the first prisoners were brought to Andersonville in late February of 1864, and during the next couple of months, approximately 400 more arrived each day. By the end of June, 26,000 men were pinned in an area originally meant for only 10,000 prisoners. The largest number held at any one time was more than 33,000. In August of 1864, the Confederate government could not provide adequate housing, food, clothing, or medical care to their federal captives because of deteriorating economic conditions in the South, a poor transportation system, and the desperate need of the Confederate Army for food and supplies. These conditions, along with a breakdown of the prisoner exchange system between the North and South, created much suffering and a high mortality rate. In quote from a prisoner, "There is so much filth about the camp that it is terrifying trying to live there." Quote, "With sunken eyes, blackened countenances from pitch pine smoke rags and disease, the men look sickening. The air reeks with nastiness." Another prisoner recalled, quote, "Since the day I was born, I never saw such misery."
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's a bad place, guys.
I gotta imagine with that many people, like, sleeping must be an absolute bitch.
Yeah, I don't know if you could ever sleep except for when you just passed out from total exhaustion.
Yeah.
They had tents, but the pictures that I've seen of the tents, and we do have photographs, which is crazy. The pictures I've seen of the tents are not great.
Also, keep in mind,
yeah,
photographs from this time period, you'd have to stand and take it for like 5 minutes. Like the camera could not be moved.
I don't think it was 5 minutes, but yeah, the camera it was a process. It was seconds. You know, the shutter was open. If anybody moved much, they would become blurs. And I think in one of the pictures you can see a blurry man.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it's incredible the pictures we have of this time period.
Mm-hmm.
According to records from August in 1864, 96 prisoners died per day. That's just in August. The prisoners were buried in trenches, side by side. Not quite Holocaust style, because bulldozers hadn't been invented yet, but still open pits and trenches were used to dispose of bodies. Sickness and starvation and hell on earth was the prison of Andersonville. I've got a picture here showing one of the trenches that was dug with some bodies in it. People are smiling like, yeah, we dug these trenches. Look at this.
Fuck, I guess they're not just throwing them into a pile and lighting them on fire, but still.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine just being part of that group of
And
people?
you've got 96 fucking people to bury a day.
And out of how many was it? 40,000? You said.
Yep. Well, 33 at its max, but I think 40,000 were total there. But I don't know exactly how that worked. But yeah, just 90, 100 people a day. I imagine it probably kind of varied up and down. I mean, at least it wasn't like the Holocaust where by the end of it they were like, all right, let's just kill everybody real fast. Let's just, and I think a big part of the problem in Andersonville, like I mentioned a bit ago, was this breakdown of prisoner transfers. Prisoners were not just prisoners because that's what you do. They were prisoners because you would trade prisoners for your own prisoners.
Yeah.
But by the time Andersonville opened up, the Confederate South was kind of fighting a losing battle. The North were closing in on Richmond, striking blow after blow. And Gettysburg and, all of that. It just wasn't looking good. And people were scrambling. So, as we all know, in April of 1865, Abraham Lincoln was shot in the head by John Wilkes Booth. John Wilkes Booth actually killed Lincoln as part of his own personal conspiracy that he thought if he killed Lincoln, he would be able to get the North to free all of the Confederate prisoners and it would resuscitate the Confederate Army. I don't know if you knew that, Brandon. I assume you did.
I did
if you've
not.
listened to the last podcast episode about him.
I have.
Yeah.
I did not know that, though.
Yeah, that was his plan. He wasn't just doing it to kill the president. He was like, let's keep this war going. We want to win. But he acted kind of alone with no real, push from the Confederacy. People were like, yeah, go ahead, do it. But nobody was like, yeah, that's a great idea, Booth. We're going to get our men back. Because obviously, the men who were prisoners, Confederate prisoners in the North.
Do you think it was a secret
Didn't wanna
for his
fight.
plane?
He was a what?
Do you think his plane was a secret?
It was. There were people that knew about it, though. He didn't act alone. He had getaway drivers and all of that. But
And
it wasn't. It wasn't.
And he
a
was
widely
doing
known
it
thing.
in service of the South.
Yes, but not officially.
So
the South.
Abraham's should have funded the Secret Service.
Okay, that's a great point, Taryn. After this, the Secret Service became a bit more of an official thing. Like it was,
At the time, the Secret Service was just a counterfeiting operation.
Yeah, Abraham Lincoln had guards, but oftentimes he was like, "Nah, you can stay home. I'll sneak off." They weren't so concerned with being with the president at all times. Yeah.
Also, I know we were talking about Lincoln Logs earlier, and we were talking about president now. Did you know that the White House was actually designed? People had grandiose ideas back in the day for what the White House should be, but Washington didn't want it to be a massive thing. He wanted it minimalistic.
Yeah, I think the White House is. I mean, if you look at it now, I mean, it's not this super massive mansion, or I mean, it is massive. It's fucking way bigger than any normal person's house, but it's not like Versailles, the Palace of Versailles in France, which is. It looks like a goddamn office park, but for nobles in 1600s France. It's insane, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like that. It's
I think they wanted to make the house look minimalistic because they were not kings. That was kind of the point.
Yes. Yeah, that was the point. No ballrooms for them.
No tacky gold spray painted decorations.
Yeah, just keep it normal. Keep the green room green.
Sure.
That's what I always say.
Keep the oval room oval.
That's right. The Oval Office. Keep it oval. Don't put any gold in there. What are we doing?
I don't think it's
Don't
oval.
make it a square.
I hate to say. I don't know. I don't know if they were building oval shaped rooms at the time.
Well,
Yeah, I don't know if they had that DLC pack yet.
yeah.
We didn't invent curves until the 1930s.
So obviously, John Wilkes Booth's plan didn't work. But he certainly crippled any future acts of restitution and any hope to actually change the hearts of the American South. Lincoln, I truly believe, was maybe the best president that, he had an idea, he had plans for the South. A lot of it was punishing the right people, and then also just truly rebuilding all of the destruction that the Northern Army had wrought. And his, I don't know if the right word is lame duck, his running mate, Andrew Johnson, really just a piece of shit, drunk all the time, didn't really know what to do, kind of a Southern sympathizer as well.
Is that why he pardoned?
Yeah, he pardoned so many people. That's why we only hung 2 people, only one for war crimes, but I think we only hung 2 people officially at the end of the Civil War. It's because of Andrew Johnson, in large part. So it's my opinion that Andrew Johnson was way too soft on the South, but also not kind enough to the South. He kind of just pardoned people and let them go back to work and live the same way they had, but all of their infrastructure was destroyed. And he was like, yeah, you just build it back up on your own. And in the end, only 2 Southerners were hanged for their crimes during the war, and all who practiced slavery and supported it were just allowed to live their lives like nothing had happened. One of those people, by the way, is this guy named Henry Wurz, who is the fella who ran Andersonville. He was basically the only person hanged for any of the prisons, the treatments.
Oh, so they did get one.
They got one, and they got the Andersonville guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good.
Yeah.
It's not good. It sucks, dude. We should have hung so many more people. Hanged so many more people.
Same thing with fucking World War II. We only hung like 12 fucking people.
Why did we not hang all the Nazis? What are we doing?
Granted, a few of them, the higher ups, did kill themselves before we had a chance to, but
True.
Yeah, or they ran away and never joined politics again.
A lot of the scientists were trying to flee, and then we actually used a lot of the scientists to further, the
Operation
NASA.
Paperclip. Yeah.
they're hiding out in Argentina or Brazil.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same.
It's actually
the same
very
thing.
likely that Hitler did escape to Argentina.
I don't know. I feel like it's been contested and all of that. I don't know. Nobody really knows. There have been things. There have been studies about Hitler, like whether or not he's actually, escaped. I don't know. I think he died. I think he was crazy enough that he did just kill himself and his wife.
I mean, granted, this is obviously a different topic for a different episode, but I do know a lot of Nazis were hopped up on methamphetamines. They were prescribed.
He was not doing so well.
Yeah.
So we go ahead.
I wanted to wrap up this. Matt, are you familiar with the Stanford prison experiment?
Yeah, of course.
It's a really cool, for those who are listening, it's a really cool experiment that was done in the 70s, and it was about college kids that were labeled like, okay, you're a prisoner guard, and then you're a prisoner. And the dichotomy of how people change and how people affect other people just by what roles they're in society, or like this simulation that they played out. It got really bad that they had to stop it. This thing was supposed to go on for like 2 weeks, but people were being like assaulted, and it's bad.
It took off on its own foot. Let me finish off real fast here and say that, so at first, after the Civil War, the blacks who remained in the South, in their eyes, things were kind of looking up. The North took over, they passed laws, but they didn't force the southern states to actually codify those laws or anything like that. So as the years kind of drove on after the war, things kind of returned to normal, minus the slavery, with Jim Crow laws being drawn up. Basically, laws that made it legal to keep black people under white people's thumbs, like segregation and all of that. And while the term separate... Oh, go ahead.
And then soon after, gerrymandering.
Yeah, gerrymandering. Yeah, that really took off. So that way nobody could, especially after black people could vote. You know, they had to gerrymander around black populations. So while the term separate but equal was thrown around, the truth was things were and would remain far from equal, no matter how separate. Even to this day, the echoes of the past ring in our ears. ICE, the KKK, fascism, racism, all more prevalent than ever, I would say, since the Civil War. And I'm
All
not
the
going to be...
isms.
Yeah, all the isms. Every ism you can think of. Marxism, communism, capitalism. It's all bad. I mean, the only ism that I'm down with is autism. And that's because they deserve...
God damn it.
They deserve rights too. Am I right, guys?
Oh my god.
Let my autistic people enjoy their trains in peace.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, please.
They can have the trains, underground railroads and all.
So I'm not going to be a John Brown and say that all there's left for us is bloodshed. No, I'm not going to say that. Not out loud anyway, where the NSA can hear me. So, fellas, do you think we're cooked? How do you think our future is going to be?
I think actually, I do think that we are at a turning point in United States history because of a lot of the norms are broken, and there is not really a way to go back to the norms because people's lives are different. People expect different things. So I feel like there's going to be a new system kind of not really in place, but a new way of we dealing with the society, if that makes sense, or governance. So
yeah, I think it
will be for the better.
Yeah, whatever happens, I believe progress always tends towards the good when progress happens. You can step back, but we're nowhere near Civil War America. I mean, not yet anyway. But I guess what I'm saying here is like there's not slaves. We're trying our best to bring it back. Some people are anyway, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think if anything, we backslide a little bit, and then we figure out all of this shit that's going on with like AI and social media. I think that's the next big thing to conquer, for civilization to find a way to either live with or get rid of, which is AI, social media, this sort of mind control that people are forcing down our throats that nobody really asked for, as fun as a lot of it is.
The good news, though, I would say, is I find that at least with our generation and the newer generations, we are paying attention more often than what previous generations have, because not to throw any blame out, but I don't think a lot of people were like paying super close attention from, let's say, the 60s to the 2000s. Like, I feel like that time period, and especially in politics, was just kind of like boring, to say the least.
They kind of took people for their word.
There was some scandalous behaviors like Nixon and stuff like that. But overall, for those 4 decades, I feel like not a lot of things had happened.
Or what had happened, nobody was able to figure out, because if somebody did figure it out, who were they going to tell that would believe them? Yeah. You know what I mean? You can't just go to a paper and say like, well, I mean, you can, but then you just get painted as a crazy person who believes in UFOs or something, Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like we are paying attention more, and with us paying attention more, we can hold people more accountable. I think that's kind of a good thing.
That, I think, was the dream of the internet to start with. And it's coming. We gotta go through all this shit to come out the other side, and we'll figure what that is. Brandon, you have any last words before I run our outro?
Fuck the Confederacy, fuck the South.
Yeah.
We should fucking torch the place.
Oh God.
Torch it.
Scorched earth.
That might have helped.
We need to go scorched earth if we're ever going to improve in the future.
Yep.
Because if we don't go scorched earth, it's just going to fester until it boils over again.
Yeah, you can't let the people who like slaves live. Or not, maybe not, you don't have to kill them, but you can't let them go back to their life the same as before.
Their
You know.
ideas like fester and ferment. So
Yep.
fermentate.
So that does it for this wonderful episode of Coffee Talk. We'll be back next week where we might cover the horrible genocide of Cambodia perpetrated by Pol Pot and his band of generous rapscallions, the Khmer Rouge.
Ooh, sounds very interesting.
Yeah. So, guys, follow us on all podcast services around the whole globe, on YouTube, wherever we are, wherever you can find us, look up Coffee Talk. That's coffee with 3 E's. Please leave a review, drop a comment below about your Civil War experiences, and have a fantastic day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.